Hello, Alabama. Nick Saban blames Alabama's bowl loss on the team. Did you see it? Before continuing with the news, subscribe to continue receiving more news from Bama. Alabama's loss in the ReliaQuest Bowl, ending the 2024 season with a bitter 9-4, was not just a stumble, it was a symbolic moment of reflection for the Crimson Tide. More than just a 19-13 loss to Michigan, the match exposed weaknesses and reignited debates about the future of the program under DeBoer. After 4 years without lifting the national trophy, it is inevitable to feel that Alabama's once relentless dominance is being questioned. Nick Saban, a legend in Tuscaloosa and now an ESPN analyst, did not hold back on his criticism. He pointed to Jalen Milroe's 3 first-quarter turnovers as the turning point that put the Tide on the back foot early on. For Saban, such basic mistakes are fatal in any game, especially in a bowl game where the margin for error is slim. Turnovers just kill you in a game, Saban said, underscoring Alabama's lack of intensity and consistency. It's not just the execution that's at stake, but also the team's mental state. Saban also raised a concern that resonates with fans and critics alike: motivation. He noted that playing in a bowl after missing out on a playoff berth often carries an aura of disappointment for elite programs like Alabama. The loss to Michigan seemed to reinforce that narrative, with the Tide performing listlessly in key moments. While SMU, which took Alabama's playoff berth, was steamrolled by Penn State, the Tide's inconsistent performance in the ReliaQuest Bowl did little to justify their deservingness in the top 4. Looking ahead, the transition under DeBoer is far from complete. In his first year at the helm, DeBoer has faced a number of challenges that go beyond on-field performance. The pressure to deliver, the expectation of maintaining the standard of excellence set by Saban, and the changing competitive landscape of college football are just a few of the mountains he must climb. The question now is whether DeBoer can bring the same hunger that made Alabama a powerhouse. Jalen Milroe, in particular, is a testament to the program's challenges. The quarterback showed flashes of talent throughout the season, but his inconsistency, especially with turnovers, is an issue that Alabama urgently needs to address. The offense seems stuck in repetitive patterns, unable to impose its rhythm against more structured opponents, while the defense, traditionally the Tide's stronghold, failed to be dominant when it mattered most. However, it would be premature to rule out Alabama's return to the top. Expectations for the upcoming offseason are high, with a need to revamp approaches to both recruiting and player development. The winning culture that Saban built still resonates in Tuscaloosa, and there is confidence that with adjustments, the program can find its way back. For DeBoer, the challenge now is to demonstrate that he has the vision and leadership to rebuild Alabama. This is not just another program, it is a dynasty that demands excellence. The 2024 season was a trial by fire, but also an opportunity to learn. The mistakes made must serve as catalysts for meaningful change, because the Tide fan base will accept nothing less than a return to the top. The road ahead will not be easy, but Alabama is not a team that settles for second place. The future of the Crimson Tide depends on how DeBoer and his staff meet the challenges that lie ahead. But let's move forward. Breaking down the game itself and Milroe's performance. Alabama's 19-13 loss to Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl was not just a final stumble of the season, but a sobering reminder of the Crimson Tide's fundamentals and offensive execution. The performance exposed flaws that transcend the outcome and call into question the direction of the program under DeBoer and Jalen Milroe's future as starting quarterback. What immediately stood out was the predictability of the offense. Milroe, who was supposed to be the Crimson Tide's driving force, inadvertently became an open book for the Wolverines' defense. His pre-snap stance revealed critical tendencies, with his feet set up differently for passing and running plays. This gave the opposing defense a clear starting point, undermining any offense's greatest weapon, unpredictability. At the highest level of football, this kind of fundamental flaw isn't just a vulnerability, it's a death sentence against well-prepared defenses. Even with significant absences like Mason Graham and Will Johnson, Michigan's defense played aggressively and confidently, shutting down Alabama's running game and forcing Milroe to play under constant pressure. He was sacked 5 times, fumbled the ball 3 times and delivered a performance that failed to sustain the offense. His 192 passing yards, combined with a 50% completion rate, are numbers that simply aren't up to Alabama's standard. This predictable pattern isn't something that started in the ReliaQuest Bowl. The lack of offensive adjustments throughout the season reflects a larger coaching and development issue. If a veteran quarterback is giving the defense cues before the snap, that's not just a player error, but a collective failure by the coaching staff to identify and correct tendencies. That deficiency was evident not only in the turnovers, but also in Alabama's inability to establish the running game, with just 68 rushing yards, a season-low total. Jalen Milroe now faces a pivotal moment in his career. He still has eligibility to return to Alabama, or he could test his luck in the NFL draft or consider the transfer portal. Whichever he chooses, it's imperative that he uses this offseason to review his tendencies and develop greater situational awareness. A quarterback at Alabama's level can't afford to let something as basic as pre-snap posture compromise the entire offense. On the other hand, Kalen DeBoer is also entering his most important offseason yet. In his first year as head coach, he took on the monumental challenge of replacing Nick Saban, but 2024 has shown that Alabama is in a transitional phase that requires quick adjustments. The Crimson Tide fan base, accustomed to national championships, has no patience for a slow rebuild. DeBoer needs to demonstrate that he has the ability to identify problems like Milroe's and implement effective solutions to prevent those mistakes from happening again. The loss to Michigan, however, shouldn't be viewed simply as a failure, but as an opportunity to learn. College football is unforgiving, but it also offers room for growth. Alabama has the resources, talent and tradition to get back to the top. The question is whether DeBoer and his staff can orchestrate that comeback. Looking ahead to 2025, the program must prioritize fundamental development, offensive consistency, and building confidence in its players. Milroe, if he decides to stay, will need to prove he can lead with discipline and dynamism. For Alabama, next year won't just be about winning games again, it will be about reaffirming its identity as a college football powerhouse. And let's keep going. And the DeBoer era hasn't been easy. Kalen DeBoer's first season at the helm of the Alabama Crimson Tide was marked by challenges that transcended the playing field. A 9-4 record might be acceptable for many programs, but at Alabama, where excellence is the norm, the performance was a stark reminder of the weight of expectations. The post-Saban transition was always going to be tricky, but the reality of 2024 has left many fans wondering if DeBoer fully understands what it means to lead a program that accepts nothing less than the elite. The biggest point of criticism wasn't just the number of losses, but how they happened. Losing 3 times as favorites by 2 touchdowns or more, against teams like Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, hurt the program's pride. The loss to Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl reinforced that narrative, with Alabama looking disorganized and predictable. For many, the 2024 season was not the culmination of a DeBoer era, but rather an experiment that has yet to prove its worth. Part of the issue lies in the contrasting expectations between Alabama's tradition and DeBoer's initial approach. Nick Saban, despite his often calculated approach, offered fans a strategic transparency that was comforting. In contrast, DeBoer was more reserved, his words and actions leaving doubts about his long-term vision. This lack of emotional connection with the fan base compounds the sense of uncertainty, especially in times of transition. However, it cannot be ignored that DeBoer inherited a team with weaknesses. While the blue-chip ratio, a measure of raw talent in college football, was favorable, the potential of the 2024 team failed to translate into consistent performance. Jalen Milroe, who many expected to lead the offense with authority, regressed rather than evolved. Turnover issues, predictable pre-snap decisions and inconsistent execution have left the offense underachievement. Conversely, the defense, under Kane Womack, has managed to avoid a complete collapse, ranking Alabama as the 9th best scoring defense nationally. The key question now is what DeBoer will do with the lessons learned from his inaugural season. He has a commendable track record as a coach, but he has never faced a challenge as big as running Alabama. He needs to not only fix technical flaws like turnovers and offensive predictability, but also adopt a mindset that reflects the Crimson Tide ethos, an insatiable hunger for winning and an intolerance for excuses. The 2025 offseason will be crucial. With a dynamic transfer portal, ever-evolving recruiting and an impatient fan base, DeBoer needs to make decisions that showcase his adaptability and leadership. The future of Jalen Milroe, for example, is a central piece of that narrative. If Milroe returns, there will need to be a clear plan to develop him and overcome his shortcomings. If not, DeBoer will need to explore the market or groom another player to take over at quarterback. Fans, as frustrated as they may be, can still find reason for optimism. The program's recent history, recruiting resources, and tradition of excellence provide a solid foundation for recovery. However, time is limited. A second season with 4 or more losses would almost certainly end the DeBoer experiment, making his hiring a footnote in Alabama history. For Kalen DeBoer, the message is clear: he needs to get at what it means to lead Alabama. It's not enough to be good, you have to be exceptional. Everyone is hoping for a better 2025. This statement was made before the ReliaQuest Bowl. But what have opponents thought of Milroe? We've talked about his status, but his future is still uncertain. The Alabama-Michigan matchup in the ReliaQuest Bowl brought up an interesting perspective on the impact and potential of Crimson Tide quarterback Jalen Milroe. Before the game, Michigan head coach Sharon Moore highlighted Milroe's unique qualities, calling him special and emphasizing how he poses a unique challenge to any defense. Jalen is unlike any quarterback we've ever faced, Moore said, specifically mentioning Milroe's ability to impact the game both through the air and on the ground. While the game in question wasn't Milroe's finest hour, Moore's respect for the dual-threat quarterback remained evident. During the 2024 season, Milroe broke records, recording 20 rushing touchdowns, a feat never before seen by an Alabama quarterback. That put him in a historic position alongside iconic SEC players who dominated the game with versatility. Moore, now Michigan's head coach, knew Milroe would be the centerpiece of Alabama's offense. He also recognized the talent surrounding the quarterback, from a solid offensive line to dangerous receivers who provide a constant threat. For Moore, facing the Crimson Tide wasn't just about containing Milroe, but also dealing with a roster full of potential NFL players. Even in a season marked by ups and downs, the respect for Alabama from opponents hasn't waned. The Crimson Tide continues to be synonymous with talent and competitiveness, something Sharon Moore acknowledged when comparing Alabama to other giants Michigan has faced, such as Oregon, Texas, and Ohio State. NFL players everywhere, Moore said, noting that even in a disappointing season, Alabama remains a force to be reckoned with in college football. The praise, however, comes with a point of reflection. Despite the talent of Milroe and the roster as a whole, Alabama's inconsistency in playoff games has been a problem in 2024. The Michigan game exemplified that, with turnovers and questionable execution hurting the Crimson Tide's chances of coming away with a win. Still, the recognition from coaches like Moore is a testament to the impact Alabama can have when it's at its best. For Crimson Tide fans, Moore's words are a reminder that the potential is there, but it needs to be backed up with concrete results. Jalen Milroe has shown flashes of brilliance and has proven himself to be a central piece to the program's future, whether he leads Alabama's offense in 2025 or elsewhere. Coach Kalen DeBoer, meanwhile, will have to turn the potential into consistency if he wants to return Alabama to the top. The talent is there, but how can we improve it? That's a challenge for this team. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.